Hello, 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 and welcome to Unique Leaders Live. I'm Megan DiMartino, and it's Friday, and it is Unique Leaders Live. And I am so pleased to have you meet my special guest today, Pastor Charles Smith. Charles has an amazing story that he will share with you soon. But before we go to Mr. Smith, I'd like you to share this out with your friends, your family, your colleagues, because it will really assist people in any and all phases of your life. Charles has a rich story of his life. He is a youth pastor. He is working with children and recently wrote a best-selling book. And so he will share all of that in Unique Leaders Live. And Leaders Live is about my guest. It's about them because they say that success leaves clues, but I don't like clues. I want the whole enchilada. I want you to hear that story from my special guest because you will see yourself in this story. You'll see yourself of different pivot points and different times in your life that you say, my goodness, Charles went through this. I'm right there right now. And so it's an opportunity for you to just grow and learn through my guest and their stories. And that is really what Unique Leaders Live is about. It is about to hopefully help you find your purpose and passion, talents, and go from there and regardless of what stage and place your life is. So without further ado, I cannot wait for you to meet my very special guest, Charles Smith. Hello, Charles.
Hello. How are you doing, Maggie?
I'm well. Thank you so much for joining me today
So
on
glad
Unique
to be here.
Leaders. Thank you so
So glad
much.
to be here.
So we met through some colleagues, Shay Brown and Kern Sherry, and some
Yes.
folks that you're associated with in the Atlanta area, correct? Is that where you live currently?
Actually, we're in Mississippi,
You're in
in
Mississippi, so
Jackson,
not too
Mississippi.
far.
Yeah, no,
Not
not
too
too
far.
far at all.
No.
Right. Yeah.
And so they are just amazing folks and just doing some wonderful work. And I'm so blessed to have gotten involved with several of their projects of late.
Yeah.
Kern Sherry has done an anthology, and I've shared one of a story in it. Yeah, it's very exciting. And they just did a summit this weekend. And so it's as I said, I'm very blessed how God works and the network that he creates and
Right.
connecting people together. So, Charles, as I shared in my intro, Unique Leaders is about you. It's about your story. People, they say that it is in the storytelling, but I feel that it's a resonation for people to hear people's story of their journey. It's not
Hmm.
just one little nugget of a story
Right.
where so many storytellers do. They tell a story, but it is about your journey. It's not just, writing your book or what you're currently doing and the backstory of it. It's your journey.
Right.
So why don't we take our guests on a journey of Charles Smith? And so let's go back to young Charles. And where did you grow up? And just tell us a little bit about your family and your own journey.
Okay, awesome. Well, I grew up in a little town called Jackson, Mississippi, capital of the state of Mississippi, uh, and grew up in the country area.
Mhm.
Where as little boys and girls, we just played in the streets and did what small children do.
Exactly.
And we didn't have a whole lot, and that may be saying a lot because we didn't have hardly anything at the time.
Mhm.
But we didn't know it, and mom just made things work. And that was so I think that was kind of shaping us, and we learned great work habits
Mhm.
uh, as a child
Mhm.
because we had chores and different things like that. But and then when we got old enough, we had jobs uh,
Mhm.
that we had to do for the neighbors and cutting grass, different things like that. Just learn responsibility. So as you help me to reflect, it's just so funny that it's almost like mom had a plan, but I'm sure she didn't. She was just, but it worked out that as I look at my siblings, we all have great work ethics, Maggie. We they may mess the money up, may do things with it, but we're going to work. And I hadn't known either of my siblings. And I grew up with 3 brothers and 3 sisters.
Okay.
Had 4 brothers. One was drowned early in life, as we were playing in the streets and going across the street in the pool, not pool, but at that time it was a pond, and he actually got drowned there. But so growing up with 3 brothers and 3 sisters and looking at them now, we all developed really good work ethics. And you know what? We respected each other, and we treasured what we received during holidays rather than because we didn't get what we wanted, but we treasured what it was that we received. And so
let me just stop here for a minute. I'm, as you said, reflecting, and I'm thinking, about my own childhood and so many similar memories, but I just want to plant a seed to where you're going to go. Because you shared about, having fun and playing and just being imaginative.
Yes.
Just using our imagination. And then, of course, building a work ethic. And I was brought up the same way. And I was with a young lady who just turned 12 yesterday. And we were talking, Charles, about, she was with me all Friday. And I was asking her about just creativity and, imagination. And it's very clear to me that, and she's the first person of that age that I've been with for a very long time. And it's very clear to me that is a challenge, that kids don't stay in that realm of imagination.
Yes.
They have so many, not only things, but that tablet there, is that immediate gratification. Yeah. So go on from there. I just
that's a really good point, because we made do with what we had, and we used it to be very creative, and we enjoyed it, and it was like the best time ever, and when we had a chance, and I can remember, and I hope you're taking me on a journey, but I can remember we used to walk. It's a little town called Pocahontas, just to share a little bit more about my work ethic. We used to walk 3.5 miles to pick pecans for Mr. Paul, and then we would walk back. So that was a total of 7 miles. So how do I know it was 3.5 miles? Because when I got grown, I measured it. I got in my car and I went there and I did it. I have a picture of that. I keep it on my refrigerator for a long time. And it's a picture that I took with my siblings. We were on a break as we were walking, picking pecans. So that, and I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but that was really allowing us to develop what we would need in order to achieve some of the things that was necessary in life, not just for ourselves, but for our own children there. And so went from picking pecans to cutting grass. And something else that it did, Maggie, now that you have me on this journey, it taught me entrepreneurship, because I always wanted to be my own boss. And that's how I ended up going in the insurance business in 1979. Hadn't given it a whole lot of thought, but back then we worked for others, and I saw an opportunity to develop these work ethics. And then I wanted to always be better and do more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we could say that just happened. But now that I look back on it, it was strategic. And it's what is missing a lot of times, perhaps today, with that discipline and that work ethic that we
Yes,
had.
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what did your mom do, Charles?
She was, and I grew up in a single parent home, as far as I can remember. And my mom was a cook at a school. I remember her with the white uniform and the shoes. You know, they had to have special shoes because they would be standing on concrete floor, most of the day. And so that's how she provided for us.
But she was a hard worker, and like you said earlier, she conveyed not only her own work ethic, but expecting you guys to not only toe the line, but to be involved in the community. As a, like you said, mowing lawns and Mr. Paul's pecan orchard and things of that nature. So, so she had that expectation, and you knew to do that too. It wasn't like, oh, mom,
Exactly. And interestingly enough, my children picked up the same type of habits, interestingly enough. So what we do in the beginning seemed like it's a pattern that we're set in. And I really appreciate this journey here, because I hadn't really given it a whole lot of thought, but it was preparing not just myself, but my siblings as well. Sure. Because I went in the insurance business later in 79. My sister opened a couple of daycares later when we adulthood. One of my brothers, he actually became a carpenter, subcontract. So, we all kind of had an entrepreneur mindset that I can see now. It started way back when we developed such great work ethics.
Absolutely. And you also saw, I'm sure, on some level, that cause and effect, meaning that you walked 7 miles a day, and it's a but, that was the vehicle, so to speak, to get you there, but you got a paycheck or you got some money. And so it was that cause and effect of doing that work, walking and doing the work, but raising that capital, so to speak, and fulfilling that transaction of what you did.
Nothing better. It's not a better feeling to work all week, be paid, and then be able to do things or purchase things that you wanted to, without having to ask anybody for it. Yeah, that you're 100% right. That was so important. That was motivation.
It was. My first job was in and I was 14. And so my mother had to drive me to the job because it was not close. I mean, I guess it was probably 7 miles, or might have been further, but regardless, she drove me there. But I'll never forget Charles sitting in her car and didn't say what I was doing. It was a grocery store, so I was the checkout girl. And she asked me if I knew how to make change. And I'm like, I don't think so. And now today, that's a skill kids don't even need to learn, because it just is digital, and it shows what the change back to them is,
Right.
So, but we sat there in her car, and she was having me make change back, from a transaction. So it's all of those steps that we're so blessed to have had.
Yes.
But one of the reasons, like you, is that my parents didn't just buy and do. And so I went to a girls' Catholic high school.
Okay.
So I wore a uniform. So I didn't have a lot of clothing. So as I was getting older, I was hanging out with kids from the town, not just this school that was regional. And
Right.
so I needed to raise money for myself to buy clothes. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. Like you said, I went and made my money and went
Right.
shopping. Yeah.
Right. It's
Mhm.
great motivation.
It is.
And I left, from the pecan to cutting grass to becoming a janitor to, well, no, let me stop, throwing paper, cutting grass,
Okay.
having a paper route,
Yeah.
then becoming a janitor, all of this as I was in school. That
Mhm.
was some great work ethic. Now that I go back and look at this, right?
Very much
I
so. Yes.
was developing, I was being developed and didn't really understand. And if any of these steps had been missed, who
Mhm.
knows where I would have been,
That's
you know?
right. That's
But
right.
just realizing that, what mom taught us, we gotta work. We gotta
Mhm.
have a job. And those who believe that they're gonna have a job, they will have a job, you know. And we just always believe. And
Mhm.
all of us now, we have jobs. And
Exactly.
if we're not working for ourselves, we're gonna work for somebody, but we are going to work. That was the foundation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
So
that
when you so
mama,
you so you went to high school there in Jackson?
right.
Yeah. And
Went
did you go to college or did you just go on from there to your next step?
I went to high school, graduated there, played ball there, went to
Mhm.
college and at Jackson State University, played I didn't play sports there because I had a scholarship to go elsewhere, but I was what you would call a mama's boy, and I wanted to kind of be close to home.
Mhm.
And so I ended up taking a job as a janitor, and I was also I worked at a restaurant. I was a cook. Mom did an awesome job as we reflect, Megan, and
Yes.
nobody had me to reflect back on this.
Yes.
But that
Yes.
was pretty amazing. If you compare not me, but what we had to go through and the steps that we had to take, you would think, well, that child is going to have some success because, and I think that was mom's idea that,
Mhm.
back they always wanted you to be better than they were, to have more, to do better. And
Mhm.
just to reflect on that journey up until now, it was amazing. And let me just say, she's in heaven now, but thank you, Mom. I really appreciate that.
It's so true. I mean, it's so true, Charles, that I so appreciate not being handed everything and having that mindset of, well, I will do it. And I
Right.
could see that she, I'm sure, like your mom, was very, and my father too, were very proud or pleased, proud. I don't know what the word would be, but that some of that mindset was working, like you said about
Yeah,
mom, you know? Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
That is so incredible to reflect back on, you know, how you arrived to where you are now.
That's
And
it, kiddo. That's
yeah,
unique leaders. How did you arrive to where you are right now? Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And
So did you graduate from the Jackson
Jackson
State?
State,
Mhm.
graduated from Jackson State. Well, and I went, we had a speaker to come to talk to us,
Mhm.
4 years at Jackson State. And he was dressed really nice. He was an entrepreneur. He had a florist shop, and he was in the insurance business. And he spoke. Okay, and this was like in 1877, 78. And I thought, I like him. And I ended up visiting his florist, keeping up with him. And I ended up going into the insurance business in 1879. Been 42 years there and learned so much. But it's just that I hadn't reflected on it how I got to the insurance business and the reason that I had the success and the stickability and using the creativity to last for 42 years in the business is because uh, where I started from. I
Exactly.
mean, because now if you go into sales, I mean, and then
Mhm.
you know you better have some work ethics. I mean, you,
Yes, sir.
you better have some work ethics and you better be able to be creative because there'll be ups and there'll be downs, and you got to figure things out. And I just think again, I was being prepared for such a time as this, right?
Mhm.
And
Amen.
that is so amazing. So thank you for taking me back down this road.
As I shared in my intro, Charles, and just as we spoke before we, started recording, going live, is that when I started Unique Leaders last year during the lockdown, I started with interviewing my staff.
Oh, interesting.
Because I mean, I had been doing lives. I mean, Facebook lives and
Right,
Megan's Motivation Monday and all those types of things. But I wanted to keep everyone intact because it was the unknown.
right.
And so I said, let's do, a live. And so it was called the pop-up shop. And so they were in all their own homes.
Okay.
And this one putting eyelashes on in her bathroom, and the other one doing peels in her kitchen, and on and on.
Yes.
But I could see people resonating. Well, everyone was
Yeah.
home, but people enjoyed watching. Well, then I read on Facebook, a friend of mine was starting this alternative medical practitioner directory, and
Mhm.
that came out of a horrible accident that her son had had. Long story short, but I asked her because we were playing around with StreamYard,
Okay.
and I asked her, would she like to come on and me interview her? And so that's how Unique Leaders actually started. And so I interviewed her, but it wasn't me, it was her story.
Right.
And
Right.
it was really interesting how people resonated with that because, like you just shared, it's not about that little piece, it's about going back and seeing that journey of Charles Smith. You see?
Right.
Because
Right.
I didn't just ask her about her directory, I asked her about her because, first of all, I know her. She's a
Uh-huh.
videographer. So, but I didn't even go there. I went back to young Estefania,
Mhm.
and the journey. So it really, that is how it started, and it really has resonated with people because people see themselves
Right.
in these stories. And
Yeah.
regardless of the story, there's something about, as I say in that intro, there is something, there's a little nugget, there's a secret in your story. There just always is. That
Yes.
one gal, that I'll just share this, that she was, and I know this person, and she shared something about herself, and which I didn't even know. And then I asked some other gals, did you know that so and so did that? No. So, meaning this brings out,
Right.
like you said, those nuggets,
Right.
those
Right.
nuggets. Yeah.
Right. Well, anybody that's listening to this will not know that I picked pecans, will not know that I had, well, all these things. But
Yes. Yes.
I am
But
so proud that we are talking about it because the work ethic is so obvious,
yes.
you know,
Yes.
to help me to where I am now. Then
Mhm.
just start, just like you so eloquently said. You know, you don't just start, but along the way, there are some things that are happening
Mhm.
that develop in you, and
Mhm.
you need to know those things because wherever you are, you can change direction and start doing some things. So I really like the idea of the unique leaders for that.
Well, thank
Yes.
you, Charles. Thank you. But now let's go back to when you graduated and you were in the company of that entrepreneur, that speaker, as you said, and
Mhm.
he was
Mhm.
dressed well, he presented himself professionally. He resonated with you, and I'm
Yeah.
sure on some level you were ready to connect with him and glean from his information. And look what you did. You then went from, graduating, and then you went into the insurance business,
Yes. Yes.
And so that really brings in the power of association and that mentor and those coaches, because that's so pivotal and so important in people's lives.
Oh my goodness. Just to be able to see or hear, something that you aspire to become, or see something that you want in life. We really, really need that. And not only was he in the insurance business, but he had a florist business. It was like just something that resonated with me.
Yeah.
One thing I had was work ethic, and I could go and make some things
let me
happen.
ask you about the, I'm sorry to interrupt you. But I'm thinking now, because my mind is going off into the diversification. Here he has an insurance business, and he has that creative floral business,
Right.
but it's also a diversification. I don't know the man, but the point is, I guess, that we all have those multifacets to ourselves.
Right.
And that's such an interesting thing as well.
Well, and me being in the insurance business, and then, like I said, over 40 years in the insurance business, and then over 30 years, my wife and I pastor the children's in New Horizons. That's that diversification there.
Yeah.
And trying to make a difference in people's lives, trying to give back because something was given to me. So you're right. It just didn't happen. I wanted to give back because so much was given to me. And I saw me being able to, because I didn't grow up just thinking I want to work with children. I want to pastor children. I want to lead children. There was something burning inside of me, wanted to help children. And then I met the pastor, who is now bishop, who believed and saw the gift, the creativity in working with children. And we were able to take a ministry and just blossom and make a difference in children's life for the rest of their lives.
So awesome.
It's really a beautiful little journey. And I tell people all the time, I was so blessed to be able to do things that I enjoy. Because in the insurance business is about building relationships. And I love building relationships. And when you're in sales, period, it's about relationships.
Amen.
And then when I'm with the children's ministry, it's about building relationship and helping them to go to that next level, just like somebody helped me to go to another level. It is, so 24/7, I have it good. I enjoy what I'm doing, which is pretty rare in a lot of cases. Okay. But again, it all started with having, some work ethics and some belief that, that I'm supposed to be giving back. And I knew that my mom, oh my goodness, my mom was a giver. I saw her give away, and the lady's name, her next door was Miss Sarah. Miss Sarah refrigerator went out. Mom had bought, and back then, we had ice box. And so and the lady's food was about to ruin. And Mom said, well, Miss Sarah, I just bought another ice box. You can have mine. And she said, well, how much would you charge me? No, I don't need to. You can have. Do you realize what that did with me? I still remember that story.
Absolutely. And that's that spirit of gratitude. I mean, without gratitude, it's a hollow, empty life.
Oh my goodness.
And that is one of the major propellers of life, is that gratitude, being grateful for, like you've said throughout this, meaning grateful for your mom's guidance and motivation, your mom's, you even mentioned Christmas, and the family love and that unity and creativity, I'm sure, major creativity.
Oh,
and yes. And so all of those dynamics of your life have created Charles Smith today.
Yes.
It's that journey. It is truly that journey.
You
And,
are so
yes,
right.
and that gratitude. So let's, you mentioned earlier when you were talking about your young years when you were working and your own kids have a work ethic. So you do have children.
Yes, have 4
Yes.
daughters,
Okay.
7 grandchildren now.
Oh, my. Okay. So you are surrounded by children. So
I am indeed.
the
Yes.
Smith family is rich in children. So,
Yes.
yes. Mhm.
So wonderful. And I thought I wouldn't have any sons. I had my 4 daughters, but the next 5 grandchildren were all boys.
Oh, wow.
So I
That's
just
so fun.
recently, less than 2 years ago, have the 2 granddaughters. So 7 total. But yes.
Oh, wonderful. Wow. That's so fun, though. That is great. And they're all in that general area, Charles?
They are all in Texas, actually, up in McKinney, Texas. And we were there celebrating, my wife and I, we were celebrating our 19th anniversary, not 19th, on the 19th. So we were celebrating our 41st anniversary. And they just threw us a big party.
So your whole family, all those kids and your grandchildren live in Texas?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
Yes.
wow.
We're not too far away, about 6 hours or
No,
so.
right.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting in that they're all there,
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Right.
You need to come to Texas.
I know, right?
That's a whole other conversation. So, so you have been in this one church for many years? Is that?
I have. Yes, I
Mhm.
have. Since the inception of it,
Okay.
we started this children's ministry and just kind of developed it. And now the children that have come through the ministry, Megan, are sending their children through.
Yes. That is
So
that
we
not only longevity, but you see the fruits of your labor, so to speak,
yes,
right?
yes,
You
and
see
they're
them,
all over the world. We hear from them often,
Wow.
and they talk about some of the things that they learned during those times, and that's really what it's about, being a servant.
Mhm.
And again, I didn't, until you took me down this journey, I hadn't thought about it much, but just to watch my mom, wow, what a servant she was, and just you can't come from that atmosphere and
Yeah.
not be some similar.
No, it's as I call it, it's the marinade, how you marinate a piece of meat. You're in
Right.
that and you're
You're
marinating
in
that. And life is about how and you hear this all the time, but it's what you do with it. How do you deal with circumstances and how your perception of things, how you look at things. And so those are choices that one can make and do make, but that marinade, it gets into your DNA. And that part is pretty difficult to eradicate because deep in the
yeah.
heart of Texas, Long Island, New Jersey, Mississippi, I don't care. It is part of you, how that has been marinating into your DNA. So,
That's a great illustration.
so let me ask you about your book, now, did you write this with your wife or was this written solely by you?
Solely by me. Yes.
Solely by you. And so the title of the book is 7 Steps in, is it building or creating or?
7 steps to raising children. Yes.
Raising amazing children.
Yes.
So a couple questions about it. So here you've been with this ministry with your wife for many, many years and your own children and bringing them up and your grandchildren. And so with the ministry itself, when and why did you decide to write this book?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, first of all, I've had a great journey in the insurance business, and I went through a book writing class to write a book about the insurance, how to survive, how to succeed. And I had these ideas. When someone read this book, they was going to want to make a movie out of the book and all that. Okay, that was my plan for having the class. About halfway through the class, and I'm a believer. God was speaking to me about I'm writing on the wrong thing. Well, he had been speaking, but I wasn't listening. So about the middle of the class, and he through the class, he spoke to me and said, "You're writing on the wrong thing. You shouldn't be writing on the wrong thing." Well, I didn't see myself writing a book about parenting because I work with children. That was my thinking. So I'm thinking I want to do this book about the insurance. So about the middle of the class, I go up to and we had been in this class now for about 4 weeks, and I go up to her and I tell her, I said, Pastor Tanya, I'm gonna have to start over. She said, well, why? I said, well, the Lord is telling me I'm writing about the wrong thing, and I should be writing a book about parenting. And she was so happy. I was so confused, right?
Yes.
But let me just say this. And I remember saying that parents are not going to listen to me, to God. And he said, they won't be listening to you. And when I say I started writing, it was like you having me reflect back on my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I started reflecting on what I did as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
and in the children's ministry, and in the insurance business as a leader. Because we have to be leaders at home, because as you know, leadership is about influence. And we have to be influencing the children at home. And so the first step in the book is all about who's influencing you, because you're going to have to be influencing your children, right? And Megan, just like the story I just shared about how you took me to talk about the little Charles, that was my mama influencing me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm.
That hadn't changed. We have to be more intentional today because there's a lot of distraction. Yes. But we need to know who's influencing us, because we're going to be influencing our children. And if we don't know who's influencing us, whoever is influencing us, they are also influencing our children.
That's right.
So therefore, we have to be intentional about who are we following, who are we listening to. And the idea of not having God in our life and trying to raise children, to me, is like the blind leading the blind.
It's like jumping off the Titanic, hoping there's water. The Titanic was sinking, but hoping there was even water in the ocean there. I mean, it's right. Crazy.
And so that's how I ended up writing the book. And it was just sharing my stories. Wow. And I used to be driving my daughters to school because I believe in spending time with my children. My mom used to always say, you don't get to know anybody unless you spend time with them. And my mom, she taught me, she got to know us individually, because out of the 7 children, we were all different. But she disciplined us based on what she knew about us. And she didn't discipline us the same way. So my point is, when I started writing the book, all of that stuff started coming out. And then I remember taking my daughters to school. They could have called the bus, but I wanted to spend that time with them. And we would be talking. And I always had my tape player of Dr. Charles Stanley, Dr. Tony Evans, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins. They would be listening. And I didn't realize it until one morning. And one of my daughters said, I have twins, by the way. Oh, wow. And one of my twins said, hey, and I think they were in high school at the time. They said, Dad, can you put that man on again? Because we have a test today and I want to be motivated.
Yeah, that's great.
I was just being who I am, like my mom was being who she was, right? Yes. But we are influencing them, like you said, marinating a piece of meat. Wow, that's pretty incredible. And so getting to know our children and making sure that we know who's influencing us, because we are the leaders. I mean, if you think you could just go to the job and lead there, right? And don't become that leader at home, somebody else will be taking your role. Therefore,
Preach it, preach it, preach it.
and so therefore, we come up with 7 steps to raising amazing children. But the number one step is you got to know who's the big influence in your life. You just have to know, because they're looking to you. You got to be at least in the right car, going the right direction.
Right.
You can handle the hurdles and different things like that. But and here's how incredible it is, Megan. Just like I was listening to Zig Ziglar, because he was my all-time favorite back then.
Mine too.
And so as I was listening to him, he was influencing me. He was also influencing folks in the back seat of my car. I had no idea. That's pretty incredible when we think about it. And as you took me down that road, I could see Mama influencing us and instilling in us the work ethic, the work habits, and the jobs that I've had. I didn't just come up where I am. It was almost like this step, that step, this step, that step. Right. And I was able to do the same thing with my children. And then I decided to, and again, if you look on Amazon, I'm so glad when I see those reviews that I was true to God, because people are saying, Charles, you should have wrote that book 40 years ago. You're the reason my children are the way that they are now. But point being, just being obedient. That wasn't easy for me because I had a plan. I was going to sell millions of copies and they was going to make a movie out of my life.
That may still happen, Charles. That may still happen.
Exactly. And that's what I tell people all the time. It just wasn't for now. But if I look at the times that are going on right now, this book is so needed now.
Amen.
And I will say this. I know the governors, the presidents, the mayors, they can't say it, but a lot of this stuff starts at home, and we have to really take responsibility.
Yes.
And we have to be willing to use other people's ideas, like you mentioned, that association. And that's why this book was so important for me to get out. So I understand what God was doing, but I didn't at the time.
Sure. No, I do. Well, I'm sure, though, you can look at your life. I laugh only because I've had the same experience, but this is about you. But that I'm sure there are other experiences in your life that you thought you were, like you said earlier about your high school career, and you were a sports guy and you got a scholarship, but so you strove to be good at sports, but yet that decision to go over there, meaning God has different plans. You said you're a mama's boy, but there's other reasons. And it was meeting the guy with the flower shop and the
all set up.
All set up. Right. Exactly. So he has a plan. That's the thing. Get out of our own way.
Wow. That is so true. Wow. Can you imagine what we could accomplish if we get out of our own way?
Own way.
Yes.
I just want to share about back to your insurance and your story and your movie. That I just today read an article from Inc. magazine about Warren Buffett. I knew none of this. That I was born in 1950. So this was in 1950. He got out of college. He wanted to go to Harvard Graduate School. He did not get in. He did get into Columbia. So, and that's not, as I said, it's not chopped liver, but it's an Ivy League, but not as prestigious as Harvard. But God had a plan, because he was now in New York City, and in the financial capital.
Exactly.
And so when he was in school, one of his professors was the chairman, I believe. That might not be correct, but he was a big shot in Geico. Insurance. And now this is in the early 50s.
Right.
And this different direction that, and this article clearly stated that, and it was really about that different direction. Had he gone to Harvard, he might have ended up the same direction, probably ish,
Right.
but he would not have had that professor that led him into, he was one of the major stockholders of Geico, Warren
Wow.
Buffett. But that also trained him in the structure that Berkshire Hathaway is, you
Right.
know?
Okay.
And so it's such an interesting thing about our journeys.
Wow. Yes. And you just have to take things as they come, but the sooner we can find out who's influencing us,
Yes.
and that's our creator, and then we'll be able to deal with whatever comes. I really believe that if we are grounded with our creator, we're able to deal with things a whole lot better
Absolutely.
because we
And
know there's hope.
that's my foundational word, hope. Without hope, there is nothing. As Zig, says, if there's hope in today, there's power. If there's, what is it? Hope in tomorrow, there's power in today.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And that's Zig. And he says, if I have one thing to sell, one commodity to sell, it's hope. But, John Maxwell, his whole foundation of his career is about leadership and influence.
One of my favorite authors. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is his foundation.
Yes.
Every book, he's written, close to 100, but they all have that thread of it, Charles,
Yes.
They really do. And so when did this book come out? And it is on Amazon, as you shared just a minute ago.
Yes, it was released in February.
Okay.
It's now in hard copy and paperback, obviously e-readers, and it's at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, just all the different places. Yes.
Great.
Or
that would probably be a, like you were talking about, you went for that class, about to write a book. Just to publish it is a big, arduous project.
Yes, and just the idea of having something inside of you that needs to come out,
yes,
so that you can serve it to the world, right?
Yes,
and being obedient to God, who knew what I had inside of me that would benefit the world. It's so amazing when I look back on it, right?
Yes.
I compare it to if you're an apple tree and you have apple seed, you can grow up as a tree once you nourish the seed and the tree grows, and you can have great leaves, you can have great branches, but until you bear fruit, until the fruit is better and you can serve the world with that tasty apple, then you have achieved some amazing success, because we are placed here, I believe, to make a difference in the world.
Amen.
And I want to encourage people, if you have a book inside of you, just birth it.
Now, are you going to, and maybe you've already started this, but with the structure of the book, the information, I could see it being a course.
Yes.
I could also see you speaking.
Yes.
So are you doing both of those?
Yes, actually, I'll be teaching a class where where there will be like 10 adults. I start, I think, May the 3rd. Is because of the book, right?
Yes.
And then an outline, because people want to do class studies and different things like that, right? Well, yes. God is the genius. I'm not. I admit that. So, and what He has done with the book, it has literally changed people's lives, because the book will tell you how to respect children and how to build relationships with them. And then to know that if God gives you a gift, you should treasure it and nourish it and those kind of things, rather than, and listen to it. There's so many good parts in there that I see why God instructed me to write the book, because a lot of times we just don't know. And when we don't know, we're neglecting the child in that area.
Yes.
And then, and you're not just raising a child, you're raising a generation. And I talk about that in the book.
Yes.
And so it's important that we become leaders at home. In other words, influencers at home to make a difference in the next generation and the next generation. Because if you just look at that child as the only somebody, but no, there'll be a grandchild. In the book, I talk about Donut Day. God spoke very clearly to me and told me that he needed me to treat my daughter special like he treated me special. And I come up with, again, here we are with creativity again. And I learned that a long time ago, back just listening, you having me to go through this journey. But I come up with some creative ways. And we had a donut day, right? And every Thursday, it was donut day. And guess what my daughters are doing with my grandchildren now? They have a donut day. They eat muffins, but it's a donut day, right? And I took them out dining with the birthday. They dressed up. But all of those things start with just trying to be creative and build a relationship with my children. I always taught them that I would never embarrass them in front of their friends. So it's teaching them how to that I respect them so that I can in turn receive respect, right? Yes. And one of my daughters, she said to me, because I compared her to her older sister, and I didn't know I was doing it. It's easy to do when you have more than one child. It's, if one child is always compliant, then you want every child to be compliant with the rules of the house. And and I told them they could always talk to me, regardless of what it was about, as long as we did it in a respectful manner. And she approached me and she didn't like it. I always compared her to 10. I promised, I apologized first. I promised that I would never do it again. I never did. I had my daughters to write a letter to me. Each one of them is in the back of the book. It will make, every time I read it, I cry. When people read it, they cry. And one of my daughters, she mentioned that Dad made me a promise, and can you imagine someone, and she's 40 years old now, or 39 years old, whatever, and still remember those things? That is simply amazing to me.
Well, it shows how we're sponges and we absorb. It's just like the marinating, but that those were pivotal and very important pieces to their evolution, and they will someday, being interviewed on XYZ, they will share those stories. Yes. And that's why, like you said, it's in your book. I can't wait to read your book, sir. I cannot wait to read this book. And I'm just sitting here thinking about how I can help and promote you beyond this. It's just such an important topic. It is such an important, not just a topic, because topic is like what you're speaking, but to the tools to get into that, because parents need tools today, because they're in uncharted water, as we said earlier, just uncharted water. And even if they know the Lord, it's challenging because the world has changed and they're in uncharted water. So we need to help in every way. And I'm so honored and impressed that you listened to the Lord and didn't write your book, on insurance and in your career, but you will, and he'll use that and is using that
in this time. Sure. Yes. And the good thing with what I learned in the insurance business about leadership, oh my goodness, it was so vital to what I was doing at home. And I use that same influence to try and make sure that, and they use it on their children's now. It's just been, wow. Generational.
Generational, just wonderful, Charles. Well, as we close, and I hate to have this close, but it's time to close our visit on Unique Leaders. But before we close, Charles, I ask my guest the same question, and it's predicated on the book, basically, 3 Feet from Gold. I don't know if you've ever read 3 Feet from Gold, written by Sharon Lecter, from the Napoleon Hill Foundation, but also was the co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. and she's the co-author of 3 Feet from Gold with Greg Reed. And it's fiction, and it's loosely based on Greg's life. But Sharon, in it, shares her success formula. And her success formula is your passion plus talent times association
Right.
times action plus faith
Right.
equals success. Now, I don't ask you all of those points because it would take too long, but you've shared nuggets of these. But Charles, what is your passion and what is your talent?
Well, great. Well, first of all, I read the book. It's an awesome book. And I recommended it to my daughter. She called me and said, Dad, thank you. It's a great book. My passion is working with children, just making a difference in their lives for the rest of their life. I've always said, you put me in front of one child, I'll make a difference in their lives for the rest of their lives, right? And I'm so passionate about it, which means that I'm so excited about the direction God has me going now, because I'm empowering parents so that they can inspire children, which is just a different way that He had for it, which is much better than the way that I was doing it. So it's because He's just that awesome. But my talent is I've always been able to motivate and help people feel good about themselves. So that's just, you will not be around me and not feel good about yourself, because the opposite would be I don't feel good about myself.
Yes.
And I've learned so much from, like you said, Zig and some of the others, but I believe in helping to take people to another level. And we're not placed here just to be idle and do nothing. We're here to make a difference, and we're going somewhere. And if you're around me, something is going to happen positively. That's just life.
Well, you're a true inspiration to me, and I can feel it across the airwaves here. And as I said, I can't wait to purchase your book and read it, but B, continue to communicate with you, Charles, and to explore how we can, change the world, one brick at a time, one child at a time, one individual, giving hope and possibility. So yes. Thank you so much, Charles, for being with me today. I truly, truly appreciate it. And we will be back in touch. And again, thank you. Be blessed.
Thank you so much.
Wow. What a blessing. Each week, I am so inspired. I'm so not just impressed, but joyful that I'm able to bring people's stories to you. And it's not just a story, as I shared initially in the introduction, but also as Charles shared his journey. It's about the opportunity to see and glean their information of what they have done in their lives that brought them to the present moment. So I hope you have the opportunity to revisit this in the podcast that will be out next week. It'll be live probably by Tuesday. This is it'll live forever on all the podcast platforms, but also on YouTube. So go visit that. But again, share this out with your friends and family, but all of your, friends on Facebook. And then it's also on Instagram. And so it's just there for you to share. But listen again, because this man is a true treasure. He has a story of hope and infinite possibilities. He's just an over-the-horizon thinker, and it never too early or too late. So go to my website, megandimartino.com. His Charles Smith story will be there on Unique Leaders. My blog will have a connection to it as well. But then put your information in, and you will receive a PDF, an ebook of the hope and possibilities. Yes, it's available on Amazon, but I truly want you to have an opportunity to read it. So I put it at no charge for you on my website, megandimartino.com, and you can download it and just read it at your leisure. So we'll see you next Friday on the next Unique Leaders Live for an amazing guest who will share their story. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. We're all snowflakes, and we have truly unique stories that will bring hope and possibilities to you. Next Wednesday, I'll be back with Megan DiMartino Live, Hope and Possibilities. And then from there, we will continue on. Have a blessed weekend, and we will see you soon. Thank you.